a game which obviously was important for both teams to try and address form issues. Brentford, in particular, were going through a horrendous run of form. But the headline taker really is Ivan Toney, isn't it, on his return? He scored in this game, scored the equaliser to Forest's opening goal, made it 1-1. And he's not really making the headlines for the right reasons, is he, Miles? I mean, you watched the game, you had some colourful words to describe what you think of Ivan Toney. They made him captain for this game as well. So the spotlight was very much on him. But from some of the things he's saying, he's not becoming the most likeable player, is he?
No, it's really frustrating because his performance in this game was excellent. He got man of the match in this game, and for your first start in as long as it is, I think it was 267 days. That's that's huge for him, and the performance on the pitch should be what we talk about. But it feels like never as a player becomes so unlikable so fast. Obviously,
Yeah.
when we found out about his ban, we were incredibly sympathetic on the podcast, as we should be, because addiction is a horrible thing to battle, and we openly criticise how football we feel like is a bit of a poison chalice when it comes to betting because it encourages it. So we were in full support. But the way he's dealt with a lot of these situations is so questionable to me. And if I was a Brentford fan, I'd feel so conflicted over who is essentially your star player because,
Yeah.
okay, when the charge came out, he talked about it and didn't seem to take any accountability for a lot of things and was passing the blame on a lot of areas, which was difficult. In the meantime, has talked very openly about how he wants to move to a big club, which I think is very risky thing to say about your current employers, particularly when they are supporting you through a really challenging time in your career. It's not the first time he's had comments. Obviously, there was that viral clip that went around a couple of years ago of him talking to a fan abroad saying that he played for Brentford. You've probably never heard of them because they're crap. And now we've got this moment where he's clearly angling for a move. He's hoping it's Arsenal or Liverpool, clearly. And even after the game, he was talking about, I manifested this. I knew we would win and I would score, so I manifested it. I made it happen, and it's great for me. And it was, I don't know, I find it a bit tiring. And for a player who has obviously gone through something quite difficult and come back, and we're expecting big things of, a bit of humility is probably needed just to appease the fan base as well, and to show some gratitude for your manager and your club that have stuck by you. And like you said, made him captain in this game. So
Yeah.
yeah, excellent performance from him on the pitch, but his conduct isn't endearing him to anyone. And the free kick, that was cheeky, wasn't it? The goalkeeper's lining the ball up, and he moves not only the ball but the spray to try and get away with it. The interviewer asked him about it after the game. He was like, "Yeah, I think that you get a bit of leeway 1 yard either way, but after the ref sprayed, after the ref marked out where the ball should be placed, and you can't move
Yeah.
it from there. That's shocking." Apparently, Forest have written to PGMOL, but
Yeah.
what good does that do? We've seen that so many times.
We'll get an apology probably, won't they? That's probably the limit of it.
Yeah,
But yeah, cheeky is the word, mate. I think it's gamesmanship of the highest order, isn't it? And just trying to gain that minimal advantage, which worked in the end. But
yeah.
Dave, Thomas Frank was saying that Brentford evidently need Ivan Toney. And I think they were really desperate to make him feel like that was the case as well by giving him the armband. And he produced with a fantastic performance, as Miles was saying. But I mean, are you feeling the same way as Miles about Tony? Do you find it difficult as a non-Brentford supporter to like him? How would you feel if he played for your club? Because there's some players that do that, don't they? They kind of wind up the opposition and do things and say things to be abrasive, and you kind of think, well, I kind of like that. It's kind of what you want, that spike element to some players. Emi Martinez, as you're referencing today as well, is kind of one of those players who you want on your team. But is Tony that way for you? Do you think, Dave?
I think it's a different kind of dislike of a player, though. For instance, take Bruno Fernandes, for instance, for United. I can understand why other teams, will despise him because he's the sort of player who winds other teams up. He's quite theatric with his antics, and whereas Tony, he's just got that air of arrogance about him, and you can tell that he thinks a lot of himself. He knows he's good. Don't get me wrong, he's a great player. But that is for me, it's a little bit more ugly for me than the other side of things. So you can understand why that will look a little bit ugly to some people looking on that, and I just don't think it shows him in a great light, to be honest. I think it's the performance himself. You could see them missed him massively coming into this game. I thought he made a great impact. The way that he linked up play, he created chances for his teammates. something that they've really struggled to do, especially since Mbermo's obviously not been in the team as well.
Yeah.
Mm.
They've missed both of those players massively. So you can understand why it's riled in people up a little bit with the way he's acted.
Do you know what though? The fundamental difference between what you're saying, Mike, about players like Emi Martinez and Bruno Fernandes and Tony is they are doing it in support of their club against the opposition, whereas Tony seems to be doing it against his own club.
Mm.
That's never going to endear yourself to anyone. And if I was a club like Arsenal now, who are looking for a player of that sort of caliber and quality, I'd be thinking about the harmony of the dressing room because Arteta has clearly fostered an excellent spirit amongst that Arsenal camp. I'm wondering, is this the sort of character that is going to have the right impact on and off the pitch? And the answer right now seems to be no. Because,
Mm.
okay, then what? Does Tony start talking about how it's his dream to play for Real Madrid all of a sudden? And I find it a very odd tactic to take when a club has supported you so openly through a really challenging period in your career. I think it's baffling, to be honest.